Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Canvas Live. Today, we are very pleased to have Linda Lee joining us. Before I introduce Linda, I want to let you know a little bit about Canvas Live. Canvas Live is for you. It's by you and for you. Sessions are presented by Canvas community members or instructor employees. Our goal is to help Canvas users improve and enhance their teaching and learning with Canvas so that we can all as community members engage with one another and share our knowledge. Today, Linda Lee is going to be talking about various aspects of group discussions as part of the GROUPIES series. Linda is going to talk about graded and ungraded group discussions, how to access them, how to grade them, and various uses of deploying group discussions in Canvas courses. So with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Linda.
Thank you, Stephanie. Welcome, everyone. I'm really glad that you're here, and I'm really pleased to be part of the GROUPIES series. As Stephanie said, my name is Linda Lee. I'm an instructional design project leader at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, and I also teach folklore courses for the University of Pennsylvania. So I've used group discussions both in my work with faculty and also in my own courses. So what does groups mean in Canvas? It can be a little bit confusing because the word groups is used throughout Canvas to mean a lot of different things. So before we get into talking about group discussions, let's unravel a few of these meanings. Canvas might refer to student groups. This is perhaps the most well-known aspect of groups in Canvas, and student groups are provided with a smaller version of your course, which leverages a separate space for discussion and collaboration. Groups can also refer to group work, and this can include leveraging the collaboration tools for working on common projects. Groups can also be part of group assignments. Now, with group assignments, typically, there's a submission of a specific assignment by a group of students, frequently just a single submission on behalf of a group. Groups can also refer to assignment groups. And so assignment groups are groupings of like assignments that we might see on the assignments index page. These will be organized by weighted grading or organization within the class. So it might be a group of homework assignments or a group of exams or an assignment group of course preparation assignments, for instance. And then finally, we can think about groups in terms of an assignment for a group. And that is similar to a group assignment. It is an assignment that's intended for a specific group of students. That is a differentiated assignment, which might be differentiated by a student group or by some other kind of ad hoc grouping. So these are some of the different meanings of groups in Canvas. Today, we'll be focusing on group discussions, and group discussions come into play in a couple of different areas. They come into play in terms of group assignments, which, as we said earlier, is submission of an assignment by a group of students. Within the context of group discussions, however, there are some key differences between a group assignment that's submitted on behalf of a group and the way that this functions within a group discussion, where there are individual submissions within that group discussion. And then similarly, an assignment for a group, you can have group discussions that function much like differentiated assignments, and we'll be talking about both of these a little bit later. Okay. So before we get to talking about setting up group discussions, we want to talk a little bit about how to actually create groups. So we're going to go over a really simple how-to for how to create groups, how to associate groups with a group discussion, and this happens within the settings for a discussion. And then finally, how to grade the submissions. And of group assignments, this would be a single assignment that might provide a grade for the group overall, or an individual grade to each member. But as we'll be talking about, when we're talking about group discussions, the grading works a little bit differently because they're individual contributions to a collective group. Okay, so first, how to create the groups. Before you can create the groups, you need to create a group set. And to do that, you go to the People page and select Group Set. This will create a group category, that is a set of groups that will contain all of the groups that will have the students within them. You can define a group structure in a couple of different ways. You can set up a group structure so that students can sign up by themselves, or you can have Canvas create the groups automatically and place students in them automatically. Or finally, you can also have Canvas create the groups for you and then manually place students into groups, or you can manually create those groups. So there's a lot of options here for how you'll go about creating the group structure. And this group creation wizard, a couple of just heads up about the group creation wizard. The first time you create a group set, you have access to this group creation wizard. If you do not create all the groups that you need that first time around, you'll need to create them manually. So that's just something to keep in mind. So first, click plus group set, and then decide how you're going to set up your groups. How many groups do you need? And then consider whether they'll be self-sign up, whether they'll be whether you'll have Canvas automatically place students into groups, or whether you'll want to place students in them manually. Okay. If students are going to sign up for groups themselves, they will need to actually get to the place where they can do that. And how will they see it? They will see it in a way that looks a little bit different from how the teaching team sees it. The teaching team, when they go into People, they'll see a tab for everyone, and then they'll see separate tabs for each group set. So one tab per group set. Students, however, will only see one tab of groups, and all of the group sets will be listed alphabetically on that page. The particular group set that a group belongs to will be labeled next to the name of the group, and students will be able to see how many students are in there and whether they can join, leave, or switch to a group. So on the far right hand side, as you can see here, you can see links to join or switch to a different group. If for self-sign-up groups, students can selectively do this as long as the self-sign-up is open. If they are not able to join a group because it's locked, because it's full of students, or because the group set is configured to require that students be within a single course section, they may see a group that has students from a different section and they won't be able to join that. So if there's a group that students cannot join, they'll see this padlock image, this padlock icon. The groups will appear alphabetically, so this is something to keep in mind as you're naming your groups. If you'll be using multiple group sets in your course, you'll want to give them a clear name and help students navigate to find those. Okay. Then after you've created your groups, when you create a discussion, you'll want to associate it with a particular group in order to make it a group discussion. That is the only way that you can turn it into a group discussion. So on the discussion settings page, when you create the discussion, one of the options that you'll see is this a group discussion? And if you check the box for group discussion, it will prompt you to indicate which group set you're going to use. Now, if you haven't created a group set when you create the discussion, you'll have the opportunity to create a new group category from the group settings page. However, one of the things to keep in mind is that if you haven't set up your group set in advance, you may want to make some additional modifications to how that is set up, in which case you might need to go back to the people page in order to customize the size of the groups, or if you're going to manually distribute students across the groups, you'll have to go back to the people page to do all of that. Created them, if you haven't created the group set in advance when you're creating the group discussion, you can do it from here. And it's really important to make sure that you've got your group set, that you've got your group discussion associated with your group set. Otherwise, it won't be a group discussion. Okay. You use the same process, a group set with a discussion, whether your discussion is not graded or graded. If it's a non-graded discussion, all you have to do is associate the groups, the discussion with the particular group set. And what you've created after you click save is a group discussion that will be available to everyone enrolled in a Canvas site throughout the rest of the semester, unless you close that group discussion for additional comments. So it'll be available to students on the discussions page, and or any place that you've linked to it, and they'll be able to participate in a group specific discussion. Okay. Now, if you're creating graded group discussions, you have one extra step that you have to do. So you still have to assign it to, you'll still have to assign it to the, you'll still have to select the group set that will be associated with it. You will also need to give it a due date and availability dates if you choose. So you can assign it to everyone if everyone in your class is already in a group, or you can assign a graded group discussion only with particular class groups. So you'll associate it with a group set, non-graded discussions, as we talked about a couple minutes ago. And then in the assign to area, you have to make sure that you assign it to a particular subset of those groups. It could be all of the groups, or it could be just a selection. Now, as a graded discussion, only the groups that appear in the assigned to area will see the discussion assignment. And so this works exactly like other differentiated assignments. And again, when you've got a graded discussion, a graded group discussion, you have access to all of the configuration options that come along with a graded assignment. So you can specify the point values, you can specify the assignment groups, you can specify due dates and availability dates, and you can specify other features and attributes too, the grade display type and those sorts of settings. Okay. Now, once you've created your group discussions, it's really important to think about, well, where do you find them? What do they look like? On the left-hand side of the screen here, you'll see what a graded group discussion looks like. And one of the things that you might notice immediately is there's this blue area at the top. And the blue area at the top gives some details about the assignment. It indicates that in this case, that it's a graded discussion and the number of possible points. And it also indicates which class groups this assignment has been assigned to. So here in the red box, you'll see that this has been assigned to class groups 1 and class groups 2. As a member of the teaching team, to navigate to a particular group specific area, what you want to do is you want to click on that class group 1 name. Once you've done that, once you've entered into the group specific area, what you'll see is over here on the right hand side. So on the right hand side of the screen, you'll see a screenshot that shows what it looks like when you are within the particular group discussion. If you look at the breadcrumbs at the top of the screenshot, you'll see the particular, from the right, you see that you're in the particular group discussion, which is part of the discussions area, which is part of the class group 1 section. Now, as a member of the teaching team, one of the most challenging parts of working with group discussions is finding them and navigating from one group to another group. As I said a couple minutes ago, from the discussion assignment, you can select a particular group name and navigate to the group discussion that way. That's probably the way that most people will get to at least the first one. Once students start contributing to the group discussions, in the blue area at the top of the screen that you see on the left side, in that area, on the same line as the group name, you'll see an indicator of the number of read and unread messages that have been posted. So when you go into that assignment, you'll have a sense of how active posting within a particular group has been. Once you are in one group discussion area, you can pretty easily switch to a corresponding group discussion area without having to go all the way back out and to the assignment and select a different one. And to do that, if you look on the screenshot on the right hand side, at the top of the group area menu, you'll see in blue, you'll see it says switch group. And there's a little drop-down arrow right next to it. If you select switch group, that will give you a drop-down list of the other groups that have been assigned to that same discussion topic. And so this can be a way of really quickly and easily navigating among multiple course groups. Okay, so that's a little bit about navigating. You have two different ways of getting into the group discussion area. A third way to get into the group discussion area, and unfortunately I don't have a screenshot of it here, but a third way of getting into the group discussion area is to navigate to the group's homepage from the group set page under people. But that takes a little bit longer, so I'd recommend sticking with one of these two ways. Okay, so we've talked about configuring groups, we've talked about associating group sets with a particular discussion assignment, both graded and ungraded. The last thing that I want to talk about in this section is grading group posts. Now, you'll grade group posts in SpeedGrader, and from within SpeedGrader, you'll have access to all of the really great features that you can have in SpeedGrader. So you can view students' contributions anonymously by hiding students' names. You can mute assignment. You can mute the assignment. You can use rubrics. You have access to all of that really great stuff in SpeedGrader. When you go into SpeedGrader, you'll be looking at, by default, an individual contribution by a particular student. And so this is one of the places where grading group discussions differs considerably from grading group assignments. Although a graded group discussion is also an assignment, it is different from a graded group assignment. In a group assignment, you have a single submission that is made on behalf of an entire group, whether grades are assigned individually or collectively for a group. You still have just one submission on behalf of the entire group. With a group discussion, in contrast, you have individual contributions. So rather than one submission per group, you'll have one group discussion area per group, and then as many submissions have students in the course, or as many submissions as you have students who've participated. So you'll see if students have made multiple submissions, multiple contributions to the group discussion, you'll see those contributions organized chronologically with the first ones made, and then the second, and then the third, to however many they've made. But one of the things to bear in mind when you're looking at these group discussion contributions in SpeedGrader is that they're presented by default without context. So you just see what the students have contributed to the discussion, but you don't necessarily by default see what they're responding to, or what they are how other students are responding to them. So if you want to see the entire discussion, you can click the view the full discussion link here, and that will take you to the complete, that will make visible to you the complete and full discussion that has taken place. And so that can be helpful if you're trying to understand what a student is responding to, if that's not necessarily clear from the comments that they've made. Okay, so important things to keep in mind about grading group discussions is that each student will receive a different grade, or each student will receive a grade, rather. The grade might be the same. And you're grading students individually for their contributions, for their individual contributions to this collective project. So now we're going to think about some use cases for group discussions. Probably the most common use case for group discussions is assigning a topic to a course overall, and having individual groups have a discussion on that. That is the most common use case for group discussions. Here, I'm going to talk a little bit about some other types of use cases that you might want to keep in mind, some things that you might not immediately think of that you can do with group discussions. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how you can use peer review with group discussions. Group discussions can make it really easy to solve some of the difficulties surrounding doing peer review and group work. So I'm going to talk about a couple of different options for peer review and group discussions. You can use a graded discussion along with Canvas's peer review tool. So we're going to talk about that first, but you can also use graded discussions for a more ad hoc peer review within a group. And we're going to talk about a couple of ways of setting that up. So a couple things to keep in mind is that when you're doing peer review, peer reviews are always assigned to, completed by, and visible to individuals rather than to groups. And group discussions can allow the submission and feedback to be visible to all group members within an existing group. So that's one of the ways in which using group discussion for group as a way of doing peer review of group work can be really, really handy. But moreover, one of the really great reasons to think about using peer review, think about using group discussions as a way to accomplish peer review is because discussions are one of the few places within Canvas where students' contributions are visible to each other. When students submit an assignment, students can't see that assignment. If students are, the only way that they can see someone else's work is if you've set up peer review and they're assigned to do that. So that's one of the limitations, one of the pretty serious and important benefits of assignments in Canvas. However, sometimes there are times where you want student work to be visible to other members of the class. And this is where using discussions can be a real benefit. So discussions are a really good fit for a way to accomplish peer review because they allow students to be able to upload files, to be able to upload other kinds of media, and allow students to be able to see and comment on that in ways that can be visible to other members of the group, if that's desired, or if you use the peer review tool in Canvas along with graded discussions, they can get feedback from another course member and have that feedback be visible only to the student as opposed to all members of the group. So that's the sort of at the high level, some of the differences between using Canvas's peer review tool and for peer review with groups or using the discussion tool. So how do we go about this? So if you use the peer review tool, the peer review tool is available if you've got a graded group discussion. If it's ungraded, you do not have the option of using the peer review tool. This is something that's only available for graded group discussions and other graded assignments. Peer reviews are assigned to, completed by, and visible to individuals. Peer reviewers, one of the benefits of using the peer review tool is that peer reviewers do not need to be in the same group as the person who they're reviewing. So reviewers will only see the work of their assigned review. They won't see contributions made by anyone else within that peer review group. So this can be, so you'd want to make, if you use this, you'll want to think about how you'll structure the assignment to make sure that the kind of assignment that you're giving, the kinds of discussions that students are having in this graded group discussion are ones that that won't require seeing the full context of the group discussion, because that won't be visible to the peer reviewers. So this would be a really a good fit if you were having students post files to the discussion assignment. With using Canvas's peer review tool, you've got all of the options that are available to you with peer review. With a regular assignment, you can assign students manually, or you can have Canvas automatically assign the peer reviews. So you've got both of those options there. Okay. You can also use graded discussions to assign peer reviews within a group set. Okay, so this is not using the peer review tool. This is a more ad hoc method of peer review. So what you do here is you would have a graded discussion, and you would assign the graded discussion to a set of groups. And what that does essentially is provide, just like with a regular group discussion, it provides a space within a group for members of a group to share their work. So this is something that this setup would be good with established group sets. Would be particularly good with large classes that are using groups that would persist across assignments. You can provide instructions for what you expect students to do, and they will, again, just like with other group discussions, they will have access only to the contributions of other members of their group. So this can be a really safe space for students within a group to share work and comment publicly, but only within that group. So if it's a group of 3 students or 4 students, everyone within that group would see all of the feedback that's being given to everyone else. So this is how using peer review within a group discussion differs from using the peer review tool within a group discussion. So the peer review tool, only the person who is the assigned reviewer and reviewee would see that feedback. But with this more ad hoc setup, where you can use peer review within a group discussion, everyone in the group would be able to see the feedback that's being given to each other. Okay, one more setup with peer review that I want to talk about, and this is an ad hoc group approach to peer review. So previously, we talked about using group discussions with an existing group set. You can also use a graded discussion that's assigned to ad hoc groups rather than established groups that are part of a group set. And you do this essentially by using the assign to area to create de facto ad hoc groups within a course. So you would assign to a particular subset of students, and they would have access to a particular group discussion assignment. It would be technically a course group assignment, but it would be visible only to people who are to the students to whom it's assigned. So in this sense, it's creating essentially an ad hoc group. Now, a couple things to bear in mind if you take this approach is that you will need to create one assignment per group. You can't just create separate assigned to areas, because that will just be assigning the same discussion topic to additional people with additional students with possibly the same or different due dates. So you'll want to create one assignment per group. So this can make your gradebook page look a little bit cluttered, but from the student perspective, they'll only see the group discussions that they're assigned to. And here I'm using like little g group as opposed to a group discussion that is assigned to a group within a group set. So this discussion is visible only to the assigned students, and that is what makes this sort of ad hoc group. Now, this kind of setup would be best for small classes or single purpose groups, because it will require a lot of manual setup. But if the course is small enough, it can be a really powerful way to create a space where students can give each other feedback on work that they're trying to do. We've talked about using the Canvas's peer review tool with graded group discussions. We've talked about using group discussions as a way of doing peer review within a group. And we've talked about using a graded discussion that's assigned to a specific group of students as another option for creating an ad hoc peer review group. All right. There's one last use case I'd like to talk about, and this is course journals. And this is, I think, a really great way to use group discussions. It's an awesome hack for the group set tool. And so you can use graded group discussions for a semester-long course journal, for an individual semester-long course journal, which might initially sound really kind of oxymoronic, because it's a group discussion, but it's also an individual course journal. What you essentially do is you create, and I'll talk about the configuration in a moment, but essentially what you do is you're going to create groups of one and assign a graded group discussion to a single student. With this kind of configuration, students will have access to an individual discussion forum that they can post to for an entire semester, if you like, or some subset of that. This setup allows for only a single grade for the semester. If you needed to give interim grades over the course of the semester, you might create a rubric and modify the feedback on the rubric as the semester progresses. But it allows for just a single grade over the course of the semester. Feedback to students can be given in SpeedGrader and straight into the discussion forum, again, because the discussion forum is specific to a particular group. If you comment within that forum, that feedback goes directly to the students. So depending on whether you wanted it to be a conversation that takes place in the discussion forum, or whether you wanted to provide assignment comments or other feedback in SpeedGrader, you'd have both options as a way of providing feedback to students. So it might be the case interim feedback within the group discussion area for the journal over the course of the semester, and then provided an actual summative assessment at the very end of the semester in SpeedGrader. So how do you get to do this thing? You'll use the group creation wizard, and essentially what you want to do is you want to create a group set with the number of groups equal to the number of students. So here, this test site that I took the screenshot from has 10 students in it. And so I've created a group structure that splits students into 10 equal groups, 10 being the number of students. What I end up with is a set of groups, a set of 10 groups, each with 1 student. So it's pretty easy to set up, and you would navigate among them in the same ways that we've been talking about all day long. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie now. Thank you very much for...
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Linda. It took a second. That was a fantastic and very comprehensive presentation on group discussions and the various permutations and the way they can be deployed. We have one question so far from the field that I would like to pose to you. I believe it's something that you subsequently addressed when you were talking about using, allowing Canvas to assign students to groups automatically. But I just wanted to reiterate that, so that we confirm the understanding. Kendra asks, if you allow Canvas to group students, can you then go back and rearrange the students in different groups?
I didn't say that. I didn't answer that question, but the answer is absolutely. You can absolutely do that. Canvas you can have Canvas. This is one of the things that I think is actually really great about the way that the group structure works. You can have Canvas automatically create groups and automatically randomly place students into those groups, but you can really easily shift students. It's just dragging and dropping a student from one group to another very, very easily. As long as students haven't started contributing, submitting work to group assignments, it's very easy to modify the makeup of those groups. So yes, do that.
Thank you, Linda. We also have a question from Elizabeth. Elizabeth asks if you would be able to share your rubric for the journal option so that...
So I actually haven't used that, but it would be really easy to create one. I could create one and share it. I could do that, and I'd be happy to take a screenshot of what that would look like and post that onto the event page later today. But what I would envision anyway you'd have a different set of criteria for each contribution, whether it's weekly or biweekly, into that semester-long journal assignment. But I definitely can share what I think one should look like.
Wonderful, Linda. Thank you. And Elizabeth says thank you too. She says that would be terrific. Before we wrap up, do we have any other questions from our audience? I'll wait a few moments. Okay, so far I am not seeing any more questions in our comment section. So I will keep one eye on it while I tell you all about the upcoming events in the GROUPIES series. Make sure that you check out the Canvas Live space in the community for the GROUPIES series. The next one is coming up on May 30th, and it's going to be people groups. And I would like to make sure that if you're interested in that, that you navigate to the Canvas Live space and click yes if you will be attending, or maybe if you think you might be attending, so that that way you'll be notified of all of the event updates and in the event there are any changes. And with that, I would like to say thank you once again to Linda, and thank you to everyone who attended this Canvas Live event today. I would like to remind you that Canvas Live is something that's available for the entire community. Please follow the Canvas Live space to stay notified of all upcoming events. That's live.canvaslms.com. Please consider joining the Canvas Live user group so that you can collaborate on presentations with other users and perhaps present something yourself. And last, hang out in our Canvas chat room so that you can connect in real time with other people who also use Canvas. Again, thank you all, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Linda. And
thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, everyone.
have a lovely day.
Bye.